Good morning, guys. It is Adam, your personal professional and spiritual development coach, which you're making the adjustment tip of the day. Guys, and the tip of the day is from emptiness to fullness. Today, we're in our spiritual development, uncovering how to walk by faith and not by sight while understanding whom God created so we could serve the purpose that God has in store for us. And today, we're going to be reading from Ruth chapter 1. So grab your Bibles, grab your pen and paper. I'm not sure who this is for, but I pray that it blesses you. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons was Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites, from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of one was Orpah, the name of the other Ruth. They lived there about 10 years, but Mahlon and Chilion died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go, return each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you, in the house of her husband." Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb, that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night, and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter to me for your sake that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me." Then they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, "See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you or return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you." And when Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more. So the 2 of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the woman said, "Is this Naomi?" She said to them, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi, when the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me?" So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest. Ruth is a short but very powerful story about how God works in the unseen, and how God has got it. You just have to have faith. We're talking about emptiness to fullness, but Ruth just experienced fullness to emptiness. See, the overarching theme is how God fills people who find themselves empty. And this is the story of Ruth. Though the book is titled Ruth, it's largely about Naomi. She was brought from emptiness to fullness, having lost all the males in her life, her husband and her 2 children, which means losing all forms of security and provisions, right? We don't have an understanding as why the father died, but we have an understanding of why the sons died. As it was ill-advised biblical law that the Israelites not intermarry with pagan people. Elimelech and his family moved to Moab, and they placed themselves under the Moabite authority, and the two sons married foreign women. This resulted in poverty, death, and widowhood. We have a confirmation of this in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1 through 4, when it says, when the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are entering to take possession of it, and clears away many nations before you, the Hittites, the Gerishites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivitites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations more numerous and mightier than you. And when the Lord your God gives them over to you, and you defeat them, then you must devote them to complete destruction. You shall make no covenant with them, and show no mercy to them. You shall not intermarry with them, giving your daughters to their sons, or taking their daughters for your sons. For they would turn away your sons from following me to serve other gods. Then the anger of the Lord would be kindled against you, and he would destroy you quickly. We see a cost of disobedience to God's word. The people of God need to understand that there are consequences to their sin. Although believers, we have been delivered from sin by the works of Christ, there is yet temporal results from disobedience to God and his word. And we see God's sovereignty throughout Ruth. God's providence shines forth even in the midst of sin and disobedience. And Elimelech, who moves his family to a land of unbelievers, this book highlights God's sovereign, unconditional election of Ruth, the Moabite, as a believer. And she is made heir to salvation, and we see again confirmation through Matthew chapter 1, verse 1 through 6. And this is the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Verse 2 says, Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar, Perez the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father of Amminadab, Amminadab the father of Nahshon, Nahshon the father of Salmon, Salmon the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab, Boaz the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. The fact that Ruth is included is in the genealogy of Jesus confirms this truth. God's sovereignty is further revealed throughout the book in many ways. He preserves the line of the Messiah behind the scenes, and God is working and guiding and directing the events of the story. Living faithfully is Boaz and Ruth, and their characters of faith and people of integrity and honor. They exhibit this faith in how they live and how they act, and they conduct a true reflection of faith as followers of the Lord. And we see in Ruth, in chapter 1, verse 16 and 17, but Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you, for where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you." We also see in Ruth chapter 2, verse 11 and 12, after Ruth meets Boaz, it says in verse 11, "But Boaz answered, all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and your mother and your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done. A full reward be given to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." In Ruth chapter 2, verse 1, we see the character of Boaz being identified, and it says, "Now Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a worthy man of the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz." Now, lastly, the heart of this story is redemption. Redemption was a Hebrew cultural practice which some things alienated might be restored to the family by a kinsman redeemer or the next of kin. And this would be the duty of the kinsman or the redeemer to step up and redeem and restore what was lost. More importantly, the Hebrew custom of redemption is a picture of God's relationship to an activity on behalf of his covenant people. Now, with redemption being the heart of the story, we see a perfect plan unveil itself. And again, we are in awe of God. We can read Ruth and see the human relationship in the story and ought to be encouraged to the reader in some ways. The characters are worthy of emulating, especially Ruth and Boaz, as mentioned. But this is hardly the main point of the book. Yes, the book of Ruth anticipates the coming of the king of the throne of Israel, and it records the ancestry of King David, one of the most beloved kings in Israel, one of the kings to the throne of Israel. But in reality, the book has its final fulfillment in the coming of the last and consummate king, Jesus Christ, the Son of David. When reading and studying this book, we see the provision of the son of Ruth that is the key part of the story of Israel and God's salvation and glorious end, of which the great coming of the Messiah and the Redeemer. Now, why would this need to happen? And we get an understanding of that from Judges chapter 21, verse 25, and it says, "In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes." And this was because God's people had turned away through all that God had did for them. They didn't remain faithful. They worshipped other gods, and they were disobedient and fell away from the presence of God. But this was not a shocker, because we know this from Deuteronomy chapter 31, 15 through 18. "And the Lord appeared in the tent in a pillar of a cloud, and the pillar of cloud stood over the entrance of the tent. And the Lord said to Moses, 'Behold, you are about to lie down with your fathers. Then this people will rise and whore after the foreign gods among them in the land that they are entering, and they will forsake me and break my covenant that I have made with them. Then my anger will be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them and hide my face from them, and they will be devoured. And many evils and troubles will come upon them, so that they will say in that day, have not these evils come upon us because our God is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in that day because of all the evil that they have done, because they have turned to other gods." See, God knew they were going to break his covenant, but he was working to bring them who were called by his name, that they would be his people and he would be their God. And he does this through Jesus Christ. We see what you lack, God is already working it out for your good, because he's holy and he's righteous, and the promises that he made. And he will take you from emptiness to fullness. Remember who he is. I pray that blesses you. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy, and God bless you.